Okay, we have our Tri-Caucus Panel to break this all down for us. Chair of the Asian Pacific American Caucus, California Congressman Judy. Also from California, member of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Congressman Gil Cisneros. And Vice Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Ohio Congresswoman Beatty. Great to have all three of you here representing the three very key caucuses in the U.S. House of Representatives. And I'll start with the breaking news right now, and you can choose what you'd like to react to first here. And Representative Chu, with those three pieces of information, the 55-page report, which gives us an idea of what one of your fellow colleagues that you know well, Chairman Nadler, plans on doing, defining what impeachment means. What did you make of what he put out today?
I think that this lays the groundwork to provide for a hearing that will summarize what happened in the Intelligence Committee as well as in the past hearings of the Judiciary Committee. This is a president who has betrayed our national security for his own political purposes and has blatantly abused his power. This report will allow the Judiciary Committee to examine the findings and possibly to come up with articles of impeachment on Monday.
Representative Beatty, as we look at this, we now have the president saying, yes, Rudy Giuliani will be presenting a report. Again, we don't know the details of that. What might this mean for the impeachment inquiry?
Well, I don't think it'll mean a lot because certainly, as we know, with this president and with those who he has surrounded himself with, they say one thing on one day and they do another. But what I am very pleased about in the report that the Judiciary Chairman has just released, it gives the public and it'll give us the information we need. I think we also know that we have heard from professional career experts, many of them, when you look at being President Trump's appointee, Jerry Nadler and his committee, a very diverse committee of experience and intellect, will start writing the articles of impeachment. And I think they're using what they have received from the Intelligence Committee, from all of those who have come in public and testify, to be able to say to us and the American public, here is how we're starting, here is what we're doing, because we know this president has betrayed our national security. We know that he has violated the Constitution. We have had constitutional lawyers present information to us, and we also know from his own witnesses and others that he actually engaged with a foreign president to try to get information on his rival opponent to use it for his own good, and that is certainly a violation.
Representative Cisneros.
Of the Constitution.
Of the Constitution. Representative Cisneros, as we look at what has been laid out in front of us so far in this 55-page report, it's very clear to extend, if you will, the definitions that were used during the Nixon era in terms of what does impeachment mean. One of the pieces of clarity is just around the very use of certain powers. I'll read from it. The early report remains useful points of reference, but no longer reflect the best available learning on questions related to presidential impeachment. That was their chairman, and what he said, Chairman Nadler, in terms of why they needed to be updated. Are you confident that this definition that's been laid out in front of America will make us, as voters, as watchers, as Americans, understand what's happening?
Well, I think, you know, going with the Intelligence Committee and their inquiry and everything that they did, and now moving on to the Judiciary, this is definitely, they have presented, I think, very clearly what this president did and why he needs to be impeached. He put our national security at risk by trying to get a foreign government engaged in our political system for his own personal and political benefit. And we cannot allow that to happen. As some of the witnesses that testified this week had said, the constitutional scholars, if this isn't impeachable, what is?
Representative Chu, your Republican colleagues, whom you know and know well in some cases, they have said, hold on a second, we need to move a little slower. There's even some on the left that are saying also perhaps there's an opening here to explore other fact witnesses, explore other avenues, lines of questioning, reports. What would you say to your Republican colleagues that are saying it may be a bit too fast here?
Well, we have an urgent thing to do, and that is to protect the integrity of our elections in 2020. we can see from this president that he is actively trying to interfere with the integrity of that election, with his getting Ukraine to try to investigate Biden. This cannot be. And that's why it's so important for us to move ahead with this impeachment hearing to ensure that we can have integrity in the elections as we go forward. But besides that, we have had 100 hours of testimony, and we've had 17 witnesses, and that's just in the Intelligence Committee alone. We've had weeks of testimony with the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight and Government Reform Committee. We have had weeks and weeks of testimony. I do not think that we are delaying this at all. In fact, that we should be delaying this at all. And in fact, it's very, very important for us to move ahead for the sake of the 2020 election.
Now, Representative Beatty, as we look at one of the other questions out there in process, it has been said, it was said during the hearings, what about Chairman Schiff as the report is now offered over to the Judiciary Committee? Why not Adam Schiff as the lead on that very report? Why shouldn't he come forward and be questioned? Would you be open to that?
Well, I think what we have to look at, we've had many hearings, as Congresswoman Judy just stated. We've had weeks and weeks where I think Congressman Schiff has done an incredible job of already speaking out to the public, being very clear in his questions to all of those experts. I think what is very much needed is to hear both sides. We have had the Intelligence Committee, we have had the Oversight and Investigation Committee, and now we are in Judiciary because we are looking at the Constitution. We are looking at how you actually write those laws of impeachment, and I think that should lie with the judiciary. It doesn't preclude us from having information from any of the other chair people, any of the other committee people, but we also are working in concert. We are very cohesive in looking at the information. It has been public, so I don't think we lose anything by taking it to the judiciary. I think that is absolutely the place it should be at this time.
Representative Cisneros, you know, we're all poll watchers, is what we do. Politics is stuff that you do professionally, and we watch and we report on. And the support, at least right now, from Americans for the impeachment and the removal of the president, within the last couple of weeks, you see it, the latest from 538 in Ipsos, 47% do support impeachment and removal from office. That number, though, has been slowly decreasing. What does that say to you?
You know, for me, this has always been an issue about national security and what the president did, trying to involve a foreign government involved in our elections. This isn't about watching polls right now. This isn't about a political decision. This is about doing what's right and protecting the Constitution, not only for now, but for future generations. And that's really what we need to go. We can't rely on polls or what's going to tell us that this is too important. There are things there that we got to keep working and keep getting our messaging out. One of the things that we got to keep sounding to the American people and telling them is that we are getting things done. We've passed 275 bipartisan bills through the House of Representatives. We're doing the work of the people. We are getting things done. We're going to pass, we passed bills focused on Voting Rights Act, giving equal pay for equal work. And this is a message that we need to keep getting out to the American people, that they know this is getting done and it's not all about impeachment.
Well, as all three of you, go ahead, please. Was that you, Representative Beatty? Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say I certainly agree. When you look at what the American public want, they want both. When you might say 47%, a week ago it was over 50%. We know polling is not an exact science, but we do know when we're home in our districts, people ask me every day about things that the American people want to talk about, and that's health care, and that's affordable housing, it's jobs and the economy. But I do have people every day saying, we expect and want you to protect our national security at any cost necessary. People were very much more than 50% in favor of the impeachment inquiry.
Representative Chu, go ahead, please.
Well, let me say that our very democracy is at stake. If we let a president invite foreign interference in our election for his own political benefit and do nothing about it, what does this mean for future presidents? What does this mean for the very basis of our democracy? And that is why it is so important for us to do this, regardless of the polls, even though, in reality, I do have to say, the polls show that there's higher public support for impeachment than in the Nixon days at this particular period of time. But I do have to say, the people should know that we are doing the people's business as well, and in fact, we are having a vote on lowering the price of prescription drugs this very coming week, which I know is a very critical issue for so much of the American people.
Finally, to you here, Representative Cisneros, that idea of working for America, working for all Americans, right, because you're voted by all Americans here, Representative, they will, well, I was having a conversation yesterday in Georgia, and that question was, well, how can we have a conversation in the Beltway from a very proud American Georgian saying, how can we work in the Beltway where it's more together, less divisive? And the report that just came out from Chairman Nadler, it was only written by Democrats, for instance. How do you get that gap closer together?
Well, you know, there are issues we're working together on. I'm part of a bipartisan caucus made up of veterans called the Four-Country Caucus. We're working together on veterans issues. We're working together to pass things. Like I said, we've passed 270.
How do you bridge that energy?
Well, we are bridging that energy, and this is what the people need to know, right? We've passed 275 bills on a bipartisan basis. We're going to pass bills that are going to affect our health care system. They're going to lower the price of prescription drugs. We are doing the work. We have an agricultural bill that we're working on right now that's being pushed through on a bipartisan basis. We are working together out there. We're not just sitting around watching the impeachment hearings.
You understand what some Americans might be saying.
Right,
and
no, you know, people ask me all the time, like, are you watching the hearings? And I'm like, no, I have my own hearings that I'm going to. We are still doing the work of the people, and we are doing work on a bipartisan basis.
I thank our
we're also doing work on a bipartisan basis with the hearing. As you'll recall, when Democrats and Republicans could both go into the SCIF and get the confidential information, it was the Republicans who chose to storm it and put us at national risk versus all of them who were allowed to participate.
Right.
It's always
it takes
great.
both sides.
Well,
It is always great.
The Republicans have participated in all these.
It is always great to have all three of you here to discuss important topics like this. I appreciate all three caucuses, the Asian Pacific American Caucus, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and Congressional Black Caucus, and that's represented today by Representatives Judy Chu, Gil Cisneros, and Joyce Beatty. Thank you so much for being here. We'll do this again.
Thank you.